What's up guys? I've been waiting a long time to make this video. In today's video we're going to be remaking my chassis mounted front splitter for the new aero kit theme I have for the car. You can see here's the old one. It has a chip out of it from right before I took it off. I was going into a Walmart entrance and it had a really steep dip and it went down and just knocked that right off. So I was going to replace it anyways, but I ended up just taking it off. If you've watched the past few videos, you know I've made new side skirts and the little extensions for them. And then here is the new diffuser that I made. I have not finished the wing yet. I actually haven't even started that. But all of the aero in the car is going to be a lot more aggressive and also more well built than my last set. Like the diffuser goes all the way back and it's chassis mounted. This splitter will be chassis mounted. I'm hoping that this one I can comfortably stand on without it deforming too much. The last one I could stand on, but it definitely was not as strong as this one. So I might reuse the bracket I made here, or I might make a new one. I'm actually going to be using some of this ABS plastic to mount it, because I used it to mount the diffuser and it was actually way stronger than I thought. And I like how it won't bend like metal, because there's a few times where this would scrape and it would stay bent and cause the splitter to be at the wrong position. So I think if I use plastic and I use enough of it, this stuff is a little thinner than what I'm using now, but that whenever I've heated it and bent it, it almost doesn't bend at all. And then if I use that, I can kind of, like if I hit a curb or scrape or something, it'll kind of bend and deflect a little maybe, and it'll go right back to its other position. Something about this one I don't like is I didn't attach it to the radiator support very well. So this next one is going to be attached to the radiator support much better. And it'll have the same splitter rods going out the front. And I might just reuse that same bracket there. It is a little bent and messed up now. But I'll probably just straighten these out and throw it back on. Because you don't even see this part. You can see right there it's a little bit baconed up. I don't really know when that happened, but I'm definitely going to be using this bottom bar here, and I'll repaint it and make it look better. I probably need to repaint my crash bar too from having the bumper off for so long. But now I have the new grill in and everything. So this is the new piece of plastic I have. It's 1/4 inch ABS. It was about $90 at my local plastic supplier. It's literally just a warehouse. And I walked into their office and asked if I could buy some. I got an 1/8 inch sheet for $40, and this is a 1/4 inch, and it was $90, which is thick enough to do a splitter. You probably would want to go 1/2 inch if you're really serious about making like a purpose-built track car and having like a massive surface area splitter. But this is enough for my application. I kind of did end up wanting thicker, but this is what they had and it's what I got, so it'll work. You can see I took the bumper off to trace out the shape I want, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and get the shape I want down. I'm pretty much going to have it go out to the wheels here. Actually, it'll go past where the wheel is, and then I'm actually going to make some tire block plates that go along here, and they'll block the air from hitting the tire, because you do not want air hitting your tire, because it'll mess up the airflow and the wake of the car coming around. And then in addition to that, I 3D printed these splitter ramps here, which will increase the downforce, because if you don't understand how a splitter works, a lot of people think that, you know, the air hits it and like it goes on top and pushes down. But I mean, that is true partially. There is high pressure above the splitter, but most of your downforce comes from the low pressure underneath the splitter, which essentially sucks the front of the car down. And the reason you do that is because the air will travel faster underneath the car, because up here you're going to have, you know, the bumper and everything. And in a future video I'm going to make an air dam to block off the bottom of the bumper so air can't flow in between the bumper and the splitter. But I'm probably going to save that for another video, because this video will probably be long anyways. But the purpose of these splitter ramps is they're going to go in here, and they're going to be positioned to where the air, I'm going to cut a square in here, and the air will flow up through these and increase the velocity of the air. which will result in more suction underneath the car and get more downforce. I'm going to do everything I can get because I mostly autocross. I do want to do some actual track days and start getting into that more. But autocross, it's low speed, so obviously aero isn't necessarily as effective. I'm mostly doing it for looks, but I want everything to be functional because I don't like having fake stuff on my car. And also studying aerospace and mechanical engineering, I kind of want to use some of my knowledge there and a little bit of research and stuff to make this technically functional at least. But I made these out of carbon fiber PETG. You can see they're a little stringy, and the prints didn't turn out that great because I've still been working on my print settings, but the other one actually broke. It's inside being super glued right now, but you won't see these, so it doesn't really matter. I just made these in SolidWorks really quick. If you're interested in the STL file for these, just message me on Instagram or email me or something and I can send it to you. I just made them really quick with dimensions that will fit inside a Focus ST splitter. And then up here they'll be vented, and I'm going to cut a hole in the fender liners and probably screw the fender liners in to these to make them more functional. But yeah, that's about where they'll go inside there, but I'll decide that once I've actually cut out the shape of the splitter and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that and get the shape cut out of the splitter, and then we'll decide what I want to do for the end plates, because I am going to do end plates, and they're going to kind of be offset a little bit to help direct a vortice that'll follow them and kind of go out. I'll explain that more though whenever I probably have this splitter actually mounted on the car, because it'll be easier to do then. But I'm going to go ahead and drop the shape, and then we'll get to cutting. So here's the shape I decided to go with. This is probably a little bigger than I want, but that's okay because I can always take more off, and I'm going to have to sand it anyways. So this is the shape I'm starting with, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. This time on the last one I made the end plates and then bent them up. This one's not going to have end plates because I have a few designs I want to try, and I'd like to be able to remove them, and I also want them to be offset lower, which I'll show you what that means. And I just realized that this fender screw is completely coming out. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out, and then we'll work on mounting. So I got the splitter cut out. I haven't sanded the edges, so it's a little bit wavy. It's mostly pretty smooth. Cutting it went way smoother and easier than before. And then I also screwed in the ducts, or splitter ramps, I guess you could call them. As you can see, that's what they look like. I added some tape to kind of cover that gap right there on either side, but they're just self-tapped in, and it's plenty strong to hold them on there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this bracket off of my old splitter here and put the bumper back on so I can get the positioning right for this, and mark the positioning and then get it bolted on. One thing, I can't find my splitter rods from this, not those cheap ones, but I had some good ones from FSPE, and I cannot find those. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to find those because I kind of need them to install it. But I'm going to get this bracket off, and this will actually hold it up on the car at least, and I'll attach it to this and then attach it to the radiator support. That'll be enough to hold it on there, and then I'll start working on the actual more reinforced bracketry to make it able to be stood on is kind of the goal. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. So it is in the middle of getting mounted. I reused the old bracket. I just bolted it on, and it's just some like garage door mounting and then like a aluminum square tube. And this is bolted on here with several screws and bolts really, and then here, and you can see it is like it doesn't move anywhere. It's pretty solid. It's still a little bendy right here, but that's because it doesn't have the splitter rods, which I can't find, so I don't really know what I'm going to do with that. But my burned through fender liners here, I screwed those into it. I had to cut a little mounting tab off of the ECU box here for the splitter ramp to fit, but other than that, it fits fine. I'm in the middle of making one of the side brackets now out of some of the thicker ABS. I'm just using this propane torch to bend it into the right shape, and this is going to go, it'll go in here just like that, and it'll be screwed into this brace, brace here, and well, it'll go just like that, and then it'll be bolted right there with a hole. It's pretty hard to make brackets here because the bumper and everything gets in the way, so that is like the one spot that it barely fits in there. Same with this one. I even had to cut it here and round it to fit the bumper, but these things are solid. Like, even though these are ABS plastic brackets, like, you can shake the whole car with them and they are super strong. Same thing here, it's bolted or screwed in the fender liner. And then if you want to take a look, well, you can see back here, this is probably the worst part of it. Well, it's not going to focus, but right in there, focus, oh my gosh. You can see those are a bunch of self-tappers going into the radiator support. They all have washers on them, and they're all, you can see them under there. You can see the other bolts, that's what the underside looks like. And then I cut a little round section out there so I can take my oil filter out without having to remove the splitter. But yeah, those self-tappers holding it in back there are probably the jankiest part of this whole thing, but I don't really care because it works. They just go into the little red. You can see here on my old one, the radiator support has these little red things that used to have the screws for the splash shield on it. So all the self-tappers just go into those, and it holds plenty strong just to kind of hold the rear of it up a little bit. It's not a super structural part because that mainly comes from this here and the side pieces. And once the bumper is on, the little corners right here, I'm going to self-tap in, because whenever I pull the bumper in and self-tap it in, it helps the bumper gap right here and right here look a little bit more perfect, and it also fits the splitter better. So that's that. I'm going to finish making this bracket here, and once that's on, it'll pretty much be good to go. I just need to figure out where the heck my splitter rods are, the adjustable splitter rods that will go in the front, and then the bumper will be ready to go back on. And once the bumper's on, I'll get the sander out and sand out and smooth around the whole entire thing and make sure that it's shaped perfectly. And yeah, then we'll probably do the end plates, and that'll be it for this video. But I love exactly where this is. You can see, like, right there, right along the side of the car and the wheel. I love the shape of this one. It's really simple, but I like it a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the mounting, and then we'll move on. So I found the splitter rods and got it all mounted up, and I'm loving how it's looking. But now that it is all mounted and good to go, it needs to be sanded. Like, this comes out a little too much in comparison to this side, and it just needs a little bit of sanding and smoothing out. So I'm going to go ahead and get my belt sander and get it all smoothed out and good to go and perfectly shaped. And then we'll work on the end plates. And I'm also going to make a piece that'll cover this middle section of the bumper and go into the intercooler area, and also some ducting that'll go mounted along the sides that will duct air directly into the intercooler and radiator. So a little update. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen all of this already. So if you don't, follow me on Instagram at Nickjoenap. But I finished the splitter last night, and then I didn't like it, so now that's why it is back apart and I'm not showing you it finished with the end plates on. I had the end plates here and I plastic welded them on, and it was pretty strong, and I've already scraped with the plastic welded and they stayed on. But I didn't love the shape of these, so I'm going to recut a shape of these. I'm going to cut a little notch in here, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to create like a vortex or something, or like a vortice will come out of, I don't know. It allows the pressure to vent around, and I believe it creates a vortice. I don't really know the science behind it, but I see a lot of well-made splitters have it. I'm probably going to do it technically for that aspect of it, but mostly because of the looks, because I don't like how these look. They're too big. I just don't like them. Then I'm going to bring these in a little bit. Number one, because I damaged this part plastic welding it, and number two, I think it sticks out just a little too far. So I'm going to bring that in a little bit. And then a few other things I did. I cut my fender liners about here because they just weren't fitting. They were all messed up and melted. And then I made, out of the 1/8 inch ABS, I made these little block plates. They're just self-tapped in right there, and then they're screwed into the fender liner up at the top. And then the rest of this section will be covered by the tire block plates that will be blocking air from hitting the tire. And then these also give me something to attach those to. So that's what these are. They're just self-tapped in there. And then also the bumper was, you can see right here, barely, it has that little bend in it right there because the rear of the splitter was sitting too high. So I went ahead and added 3 washers underneath these brackets to space it down a little bit. And then right here, this looks pretty janky now that I look at it, but I added 3 pieces of ABS there. The only reason they're up like that right now is because they're bent, but where it's actually screwed in, they're flat. And I just added those in between the splitter and the radiator support to kind of push it down and give it something to like clamp in between, essentially. And that actually ended up making it a lot stronger. You can see I can stand on it. So this is my full weight. I weigh about 155 pounds right now, and I can completely stand on it. If you ever see my car anywhere, that doesn't mean you can stand on this, and you can't really do it with the bumper off, because then you're just going to be standing on this thin part here, and you can see it still does bend a little. But if you're standing right here where the actual splitter rods and mount are, then it works perfectly fine. And then I also, right here, since the splitter used to be mounted a little higher up in the rear, I cut a little notch and used my blowtorch to bend this section down so that it wouldn't hit the pulley here. But now that I lowered the rear a little bit, that doesn't really matter, but that is one thing I did. So I'm going to go ahead and make the new end plates and attach those, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I finally finished it and am happy with it. This is the end plate shape I ended up going with. And I like it. It's kind of what I was talking about, having like a little offset slit in them. And then when I was talking about the end plate being offset, you can see it sticks out here on the bottom. And that's to keep the low pressure underneath flowing underneath and the high pressure on top flowing on top. And in addition to that, in a few videos I was watching about aerodynamics and stuff on cars, one guy said a vortice should follow this 90-degree corner right here and follow it out into the wheel wake. So technically that's what that is for. I ripped off the plastic welded ones, and I went and bought these little stainless steel screws. They're basically like self-tappers. I forgot what they were called, but I drilled them into these, cut the slits, and then I drilled little holes in the 1/4 inch ABS plastic and just drilled these in, and it is much stronger than the plastic welding. I'm not worried about these. Like these could hit cones at autocross and scrape on the ground and stuff and be completely fine. So that is that. It is completely finished. You can see it is super big and aggressive. Might not be some people's style, but I think it looks cool. And once I get this middle part here black, and I'm going to make an air dam for it and some block plates for the side tires. I was going to do that in this video, but this video is already going to be long, so I'm not going to do that in this video, and I don't feel like doing it. So that'll happen at a later date. Then I also want to get hood vents, and then I'll put the RS wing on once I'm done making a custom version of that. And it'll make the whole car a lot more aggressive, so all of the aggressive aero will fit a lot smoother. But that is how I made a chassis mounted spoiler for my Focus ST. Not spoiler, splitter for my Focus ST that is functional. I actually already drove the car at high speeds, and I can actually like notice a difference in the steering wheel, like changing lanes. And if you kind of do some spirited driving, it does feel a little bit more stable, and you can kind of feel it on the front. It's not super drastic, but if you're looking for it, I do notice the difference after driving the car without a splitter for a long time. So I don't know if it'll be useful for autocross. I doubt it. I don't think it's high enough speed. But if I do any track days, it should help. But and then other than that, it obviously just looks cool. And I like having a chassis mounted splitter and not a fake one that's just drilled into the bumper. It also is helpful if you hit something in the road. With my old chassis mounted splitter, I hit a skunk going like 50 miles an hour, and the skunk literally just bounced off the corner of it, and you couldn't even tell I hit it other than a little bit of like blood on it, which it's, I mean, kind of gross, but it is what it is. If you were in a car without a chassis mounted splitter, it definitely would have put a hole in your bumper and cracked it, and you would have had to get a new bumper. So that's one reason why you get a chassis mounted splitter. And then you could see I could stand on it, obviously, so it is pretty strong in addition to looking cool. But that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or message me on Instagram at Nickjoenap, and I'm happy to help you if you're doing something similar on Focus ST or any other car. But other than that, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.